Hi, I'm Tom Travat, and this is Photography Adjacent, a podcast about photography and everything else. Each week on our show, we speak to artists, activists, writers, and the occasional photographer to learn about life through their lens. Hi, today we have a conversation with Sean Luthwaite, who's based in Stockholm in Sweden. He's a headshot and portrait photographer, does weddings as well. And today we have a conversation about style and how to have kind of tenacity with your style, how to stick with what you love, and how to brand yourself as a photographer doing the kinds of photography work that you really love doing. So stick around and check out that conversation coming up now. Hi, Sean Luthwaite. How are you?
Not too bad, Tom, yourself?
Very well, thank you very much. Sean, we've known each other for maybe just over a year through Headshots Matter and chatting on the group and so forth. But this may be the first time that anyone's come across you. So can I have a little bit of introduction, who you are, what got you into photography in the first place?
Well, my name is Sean Luthwaite. I've been in Stockholm now since 2008, November 2008. My original background, my previous life was as a graphic designer for 14 years with Thomson Reuters, BBC, etc. When I moved over in 2008, I managed to get some very little graphic work. One of the places that I was working at, they were looking for some headshots. And, I had my trusty Nikon D3000, was it a 10 megapixel camera with a kit lens? I know everything perfect. It was a disaster, but still, it got me intrigued enough to want to look into doing more to do with people. I like one-on-one interactions, so doing headshot photography is absolutely perfect for me. So I did the headshots. I mean, at the time, it wasn't bad. I didn't have any studio lights. It was just mostly natural daylight, etc. Then it came to a point one day in the local dog park. I was out speaking to some people, and I got speaking to a couple of people. And this guy's girlfriend, she's Finnish, and she wanted assistance with her university paper, I believe it was. So I helped her with that, and it was like very technical in English. I mean, a bit more for me, it was hard going. I had a migraine for like 2 weeks after it. So anyway, she said, "What can I do to sort of thing?" So, well, listen, I've started photography. I want to get more into it. Can I take some portraits? So we went out into the streets, took some stuff, and I really liked it. At the time, I had a 18 to 55 and a 35 millimeter DX lens, and I was like, "Yeah, I like this. This is really good." So long story short, I got looking on Facebook. I typed in headshots, students, Stockholm, and the first thing that came up was Actor Studio Stockholm, which is located in Old Town, so the oldest part of Stockholm. And it all sort of just cascaded on from there. So I enjoy what I do. I don't really see what I do as work, or so I don't think I would want to do it, basically. And I mean, fast forwards, I've had some very interesting projects to work on as far as clients, and also with Headshot Matters, and, jetting off to Austria for 24 hours and shooting the the Snapchat team over there, which was it's jobs like that. I think it would be very hard to find yourself or impossible to get. So having the opportunity to do that was just it does the confidence good as well. So now here I am. January starting off quite promising. I had 2 people call yesterday. A young girl who was in a local Swedish movie, was directed by Lasse Hallström, and another guy who called me up. I was on the phone for like an hour, which was great, but I also had to get onto a meeting with a director in town. So January's starting to shaping up quite nicely. It normally doesn't pick up till like mid-February for me. So I'm sort of be able to breathe a bit now and relax a bit since we get the first jobs in for this year. So.
Yeah, of course. You also do weddings and sort of portrait photography that is maybe for maternity or pregnancy portrait photography. Is this something that you do on a regular basis, or do you really find yourself mostly in the studio taking headshots of people?
It's mostly in the studio with headshots. I very rarely do location work, not unless it is for corporate headshots, and then I have to travel. Weddings, that's obviously a season for that. I have done 1 or 2 winter weddings, which is a lot of fun, but most of them are summer. And the summers in Stockholm, they do get quite brutally hot, it's like 35, 40 degrees. So running around with lots of gear, trying to get in front of people, trying to figure out where they're going to be at a certain point, it's quite hard going. I love weddings because, I mean, I got into it by mistake. It sounds a bit strange, but I got into my mistake. I helped a friend as a second photographer, and I liked it. I didn't really want to do it as the main photographer because that's like a lot of pressure to get the shot, the first kiss, the dance, the little quirky things that happen in weddings. So I got to do my first wedding on myself, which was with some friends. I said, listen, my style is very documentary style. There's none of this Vaseline wrapped around the side of the lens to give you a nice blurry type feel. It's just very honest documentary, a lot of black and white. The portraits will be in color. And I think I've probably done now, since I started, maybe 30, 40 weddings. But that's over a span of maybe 3-4 years. So it's good. It's good for the bank balance, but it's an all day event. It's from like 7 o'clock in the morning till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Then when you get home, then you've got to edit 4,000 or 5,000 pictures, and so it's about a week's worth after that just to edit and cut down. So I enjoy it though.
It's certainly a young photographer's game to some degree. I know that being in my early 40s, probably the idea of carrying big heavy camera kit around for 8 hours terrifies me. So
it does. I mean,
more power to you to be able to do that.
It is. I mean, I sort of try and cut down my gear, what I take. I mean, I used to take a lot of stuff with me, but then I just found out, even though it's like 4 or 5 years ago, I'm now 48. I sort of cut down from using the Lumix S1 to using the Lumix S5, which is a considerable weight saving. I do take the S1, but that's normally when we're at the venue. I don't have to walk around with it. So the S5 does the bulk of the work. And with lights, it's an off-camera flash, and that's me good to go. So,
do you find? I mean, I know your work quite well. I've we follow each other on Instagram, and I've looked through your website. I know your work quite well, but let's have a little chat about the style of the work. For me, it's kind of artistic. It's kind of deep. There's lots of deep shadows.
Yeah.
There's an approach that isn't really about trying to necessarily show someone's just their face. It's more of a feeling, more of a kind of an idea or a kind of portrait. I know for me, working in the headshot game as well, there's this kind of balance that is you're always kind of trying to get between taking a photograph that does the kind of functional role of a headshot for an actor or a performer or something like this, and then trying to add something else in there that might be considered some kind of your take on it, like a kind of portraiture artistic take. Talk me through your kind of reasoning for the approach that you take.
It's sort of an amalgamation of the last 5, 6, 7 years with a lot of different styles of photographers. I don't really want to sort of follow one particular style of photographer because then I'll get classed as a mini-me of that photographer. And that's not a bad thing because there's a lot of the photographers I do follow are absolutely amazing. There's Jeff Rojas in New York. There's Peter Hurley, which seems to be a very popular and sort of emulated style of portraits. But for me, for actors, I want to show them in a very realistic kind of way. I do use the one light source as I'm using just now, just one light shoot through lamp. But as far as I want to make it very cinematic in appearance, I want to make it easier for the casting directors to look at a picture of mine or through them, and mine stands out. I shoot landscape because it's more like a screenshot, a screen grab of the actor as if he was or her going to be on screen. So I do like having a lot of depth to the face, because the face is not flat as some lighting styles do. I mean, I know your lighting style is I'm quite envious of that in a very good way. It's something. I mean, we've had this discussion before with Hedge. What matters, that the only person you should be competing with is yourself. I think if you start competing with other people, it slows things down. You don't get anything done at all. So having someone whose work inspires you it just spurs you on. It's like, how did he do that? How did she do that? So for me, I want the face to have like a painterly style, but have still a lot of focus on the eyes. There is going to be one side of the face a bit darker than the other, but I want to have a bit of a 3D effect as such without making it look ridiculous. But so yeah, it's just more or less of trying to make the casting director's job a lot easier, to saying, okay, we can see this person as a dentist, we can see this person as a taxi driver, without having to think about it. If they don't have to think about it, the decision's already made and they call them in for the audition. After that, it's up to the actors themselves to land the role. I always sort of say that, these headshots are key to get you into auditions. The rest is up to you, so if you don't get it, it could be any number of things that on the day it didn't really work for them, and then they move on. So it can be very good for them that they don't get called forward, because then they know they're not going to be right for the role. But at the same time, if they get called in, they want to see more of the person. They want to see what the picture that they see through email is the same person that walks through the door. So I don't really want to do too much to the photographs at all. So honesty is the best policy when it comes to headshots, especially for actors.
Of course. Do you find that you get any pushback from actors about the style of photography that you practice?
Any negative sort of pushback on it, or
just kind of just pushback? Yeah.
Oh, right. It is from agents, but I think these agents are more under the style of seeing American style headshots, very well lit, no shadows, white backgrounds, sort of quite retouched, should we say, to a certain degree. But at the same time, I'll say, listen, these headshots work. They get actors work. So when it stops getting actors work, then I will obviously rethink how I'm shooting them. But until then, I'm going to keep on doing what I do. And a lot of people, they do come back to me. I mean, my sort of biggest pat on the back is actually having actors come back for like a second share session, third, fourth, fifth. And some actors I had now come back like 5 or 6 times over the last 4 or 5 years. So that's the biggest achievement I have, as they like what I do, they get work from it, so they come back, and that's what any sort of photographer wants to have done. So there's negative wise, I if there was some, I would say I think some actors would want the session to be a bit quicker. I'm not sure if that's a bad thing, but I mean, they get all the photographs out of the session. They will get like 2 or 3 photographs in their email before they get home, so then they can start use them as fast as possible. The reason why I do give them all the photographs, my editing, I said it's 30, 40 seconds each picture. If there's a pimple, remove it, save it, and send it. Is the more photographs they have, the more they'll use, and the more they'll get seen. The more they'll get seen by casting directors, then their friends will say, you're getting a lot of work here. Why are you doing this? Why are you getting so much work? Well, because they're keeping what they have, their image fresh, by changing profile pictures, upload onto their Spotlight accounts or whatever it is, or professional acting sites that they have. So they're getting seen, that they can upload as many times as they want. I think they have a limit of like 11 pictures on Spotlight. I'm not sure, stage, whatever it's called. But yeah, so they get seen with new eyes and different look pretty much all the time. I sort of try and give them a variation during the session as well. Some sort of Danish crime series, sort of like quite dark and moody, then I will give them sort of some, as far as I'm concerned, quite well lit. There's still quite heavy light and dark on one side, but you can still sort of see the hair and the ears on the other side. So I do want to give them a bit of variation, not just what I want to give them, because that would be wrong.
Fair enough. What's the Stockholm scene like? Like, I haven't spent a lot of time looking at other photographers in Stockholm and the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
What's it like? I mean, I know London pretty well. What's Stockholm like?
Stockholm, as far as headshot photographers goes, I think that there's a lot of portrait photographers in Stockholm. There's a lot of portrait photographers. I'm not sure you know what the German scene's like. They do shoot like a lot of black and white, sort of art, art deco, art noir sort of type stuff. Stockholm, I think I know acting headshot photographers, maybe two that comes to mind. But a lot of them are sort of outdoorsy portraits, Canon 1.2 natural light type photographers, and that's great. But for me, I do use constant light, but I still want to give it a bit of a cinematic look. I do sort of color grade, but still try and keep the natural skin tones going, and the same with their eyes. Whereas it's not really a headshot; it's a portrait. So I want to keep everything tip-top square away, and so what they see is what they get, basically. But yeah, the scene is, I'm not sure if I just haven't tried to look for the headshot photographers in Stockholm, to be honest with you. So there's a lot of really amazing portrait photographers, and I sort of see the two slightly different. I think if you take a portrait, okay, it is a headshot, but for the purposes of representing someone truly as they are, with green eyes, pinkish skin, whatever it is. I think headshots and portraits they do show the same thing, but one is showing what you can be, and one is showing you what you are and the beauty of your face, or whatever it is. Both have their pluses and minuses. I mean, I do like doing portraits, arty type portraits. It's a lot of fun, but bread and butter is actors' headshots.
And how many per month do you think you're shooting?
Oh God, I think there is sort of like a bit of a up and down ebb in when people come around. I mean, normally it sort of falls off from like the end of October to sort of February. There's like nothing at all, and it's sort of generally sort of springtime. People still have time to have a headshot. That's quite sort of busy period. Then it'll drop off for people going on summer. Then sort of winter time, it'll drop off sort of early September time until, as I said, February. So there is sort of big ebbs. People are starting to come back now, which is really good to see. I'm not sure if that's just a financial change in the market or whatever. People have some more expendable cash, but I'm happy that people are starting to come back this early on in the year. It's the second week of January, and I've already, I've had a meeting with a director yesterday to shoot headshots for his people that he represents. There's going to be other stuff that evolves from that. So a lot of the stuff when I'm not working, a lot of it is networking with producers, directors, and casting agents. But a lot of them have their sort of golden child photographers who shoot their headshots, and that's absolutely fine. But there will be a case of where I will do quite a lot of editorial work for photographer or for magazines in town, and that's very enjoyable. But also, it's a bit like wedding photography. There's a lot more after the fact. There's a lot of editing to be done, a lot more editing on the photographs than there would be for actors' headshots. So it's fun, but there's a lot of work. There's a lot of follow-up work after it. So,
and if there was there's a woman in your portfolio that I've seen a couple of times popping up on Instagram, a blonde woman. Is this somebody you test with regularly? Is this a client that comes back?
It is. I do like a lot of not a lot of tests. I used to do a lot of tests before I started having a bit of a client list that was sort of for assignments. But when I do get people around, it is because I've got a new lens or I've got a new light.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a lot now, especially over Christmas. But it's when I want to test something out, but I don't want to test it out on a paying client. The worst thing would be is to do that, then have to reshoot them with old stuff. So then, it's best to test it out, like on a 45-minute, an hour session with someone who's quite happy just to use the photographs for Instagram or Facebook profiles. So I do some of it, but it's generally just to test. I don't want to really sort of test on people that are paying for it. So
you, both of us, are mentors for Headshots Matter.
That's correct, yes.
I'm going to give a little bit of description of what Headshots Matter is, because people who are listening to this or watching this might not know. So Headshots Matter is set up by Dwayne Brown a number of years ago, initially as a kind of directory of headshot portrait photographers, sort of professional portrait photographers working in a kind of commercial sphere, predominantly in a kind of LinkedIn setting. Since the beginning of this, he has changed and he's brought in new amazing photographers to be part of this, essentially a kind of directory of these photographers. So, for example, Sean, there's only you and one other photographer in Stockholm. There's only me and a small handful of other photographers that are listed within London. But smaller cities or large towns get one photographer is there, and it's a kind of SEO bump or a little kind of sense that it. But Headshots Matter has also been progressing over the last year to become much more than that. It's also becoming a kind of resource for photographers, as well as a kind of space where photographers can kind of meet and chat, and that's how we've been talking. But what we've been setting up recently is this mentorship program, where we offer people either online or in-person mentorship, whether that's a workshop or whether that's a kind of one-to-one, like portfolio review or help with your branding or help with your kind of confidence, those sorts of things. For me, this is a really exciting and interesting way to get involved in my community. I was going to say local community. It's not local. It's very much spread across the world. But, involved in the sort of photographers community, and to kind of, help people get over those little kind of steps, those little hurdles that we all have. Whether that's like, how do I price myself? How do I market myself? What's the best way to do a portfolio? What should, those sorts of things. You've been working with a number of photographers who've fairly recent to the game. I think one of them is Mike, and Mike's work has taken a huge uptick in recent months. So, give us a little bit of background on the conversations you've been having with Mike and the other sorts of things you've been doing with the mentoring.
Well, with Mike, I think this was before the mentoring scheme came up. I'm glad it has come up, because it's. I do have knowledge. Whether people want to use it or not is a different matter. But I was talking to Mike. I've always liked Mike's work. He's a very strong creative workflow coming out, and we started talking on Instagram, I think it was, and he sort of liked my style of portraits. Very strong, very contrasty, very powerful images, basically, and he basically was like, so how do you do this? And I said, well, I use one light. And he was like, one light? And I sort of said, yeah, so I use one light for them. And I think it's a case of, I'm very comfortable using one light. I know the exact what effect that I can get from it, either moving it further back or whatever it is that I want to do. I mean, I used to use off-camera flash a lot, and for that, I used to literally use an off-camera, so there was no modeling lamp on it, so it was very much a trial and error. And I did like it, but the sort of the big downfall for me using strobe was, when you shot the picture, the pupils of the eyes would dilate, and if they had like beautiful green eyes, that pretty much disappear. So I don't know how I got onto using two LED lamps. I'm not sure if I used to watch stuff that was more video style orientated, but it was a case this person was moving this lamp around off camera left, then you could actually see the lights and the shadows. I was like, okay, if this can work for video, I'm going to use it for photography. It's not groundbreaking. I'm sure there's other people that have used it way before I have. but the effect that I get with it is something that I like a lot. I sort of start off in the Rembrandt sort of type style lighting, and if I want it more moody, then I'll just move it further around to the sides, or I want it brighter, I'll just move it further close to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of tried. I think he used 3 lights. I think he uses 2 lights at the moment. One is like a hair light that he uses camera right, and he uses the key light camera left. And his stuff now, I'm kind of wish I hadn't told him about this, because this stuff is just absolutely amazing. I mean, I think, as you said, he's quite new to the game of photography. I wish I was at his stage when I started off with photography. I mean, his stuff is just, and that's the thing with certain photographers, as soon as it pops up, like scrolling through your morning coffee, I'll sort of see a picture. That's Mike, blah, blah, blah. That's Tom, blah, blah, blah. That's Ivan Weiss, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But his stuff is very recognizable to me. And he's got an interesting style. And when he shoots with the one light, I'm not sure if it's because he does. There's just something about, he gets a lot of depth, a lot of contrast out of it. I'm like, how the hell is he doing? Is he using constant light, or whatever? But his stuff's very good. It's very strong. His stuff has. I've sort of seen a big difference, and I mean, I think that as a photographer yourself, you want to see a big difference, a big change in your work. From me, when I started shooting street photography in London in 2006, I think it was, up till now, when I started my portrait photography or headshot photography. I'm quite glad that when I look back 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I consider saying, well, that's terrible. But it's only a case that I'm actually improving what I'm doing, day by day, session by session, that I do see a big difference in my work. I mean, I do have off days, absolutely. I think like most people do. But I think it's a case of, right, you've had an off day, stop it, get back on the wagon and start using stuff again. But I mean, as far as headshots per month, it really just depends. I mean, I can have sort of a good month and have like 5, 6, 7 people coming in. Then the next month could be like 2 people. The next month could be 1. A lot of actors are sort of, I want to book like this week of the year, like 2 days before, or a day before, even the night before. They'll say, listen, I've got an audition, I can't make the headshot session. Then they'll rebook. So it's frustrating, but they've got the possibility of getting work, so I rebook them. So.
Just to geek out a second, are you still using your Lumix?
God, yeah, I'm using my Lumix big style. No, I do like my Lumix. I recently not recently. It was like last year, maybe 9 months ago. Actually, I got a 35mm 1.4 Sigma art, and I got it secondhand from a site called cyberphoto.se. And I think the original price was about £950, and I got it for $5.50. Yeah, $5.50. So I was really happy to get that. I do like the shallow depth of field at 1.4, even with a full body portrait. I do like the separation that it does give me. I do use it for like half body shots. It's amazing outside. It's great in low light. But the Lumix for me has been a total game changer, as far as with Mike using his one light system now that he uses, me changing to Lumix from Nikon. I think my last Nikon was Nikon D810, which was a very good camera, very strong. But I like to sort of see instant gratification as far as seeing the images the way I see them in front of me and how they appear on the camera. I think for me, Lumix is a really good option. I up until the point, I've heard of Panasonic, but Lumix, I don't really know that they were that big in the camera community. I'm not sure if it's more orientated to video, the camera G6 and so forth. But as far as cameras go for stills, it's amazing. And being L mount lens, I can use Leica lenses, which I can't afford, but if I do have the option, I can use Leica lenses.
If it comes up. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, fantastic. If you were to give a tip to a photographer who's just about to start into the headshot game, into the portrait game, what's your tip?
I think don't get lost in the sea of other photographers. I think I sort of fell into that trap of following many people, and they all had sort of very different styles of how they work and what the work they produced. So I was sort of left chasing my tail, like, for example, like shooting Peter Hurley style and shooting like a fashion editorial style sort of portrait. So I think if you have a style that you like, is to sort of follow similar type photographers. Like if it is fashion editorial portraits or headshots, then sort of, either go on to Google it or Pinterest or, even Instagram. Once you do find it, and Instagram, I think I'm not sure they still do, but if you click on one, then you show more. It'll show you like other photographers similar to them and follow them. But I think just don't get caught up in it. I sort of wanted to be great at the very beginning, and that was just so disappointing when I wasn't great at all. I'm still not there at the moment, but I've sort of came the long way around to get to where I am just now. So I think if you can sort of nail down what you want to do or the style of photography that you want, even if you I guess with Google, you can sort of backset images. It'll show like images that are very similar to the one that you've uploaded. So I think if you can do that, then you can sort of find the photographer who did that, then follow their work. But don't get obsessed with gear either. That was my biggest downfall. At one point, I had more lenses than I could carry in the camera bag. Now I'm lucky if I use two, even at weddings. It's a 24-70 and a 35mm 1.4. That's it. Whereas before I have a 70-300. 35mm 18-55. It just spend more time changing lenses than you actually do in shooting. So don't get obsessed with the latest gear. I know since I had the Lumix S5, there's the S5 II, there's X5 Black Edition, but I think they're mostly more aimed at videography, and that's something, thankfully, I'm not interested in doing.
Yeah, of course. It's really interesting about gear because, we all do have little conversations about gear, and we do care about it as well.
Yeah.
But one of the things I always say is that it's not just the gear, it's the studio, the environment, the feeling that you bring to the shoot that actually has a big impact as well. I've shot now in my career. I've shot in 4 different studio settings. One being my flat, which I'm sitting in at the moment, and then 3 others being kind of dedicated studio spaces.
Right.
I'm on the 3rd kind of dedicated studio space, and each space has got a different character. Each space brings something different to the photograph, whether that's the height of the ceiling or the type of windows there are. Sometimes I shoot with natural light, so having a big open window is really helpful for me, whether that's the floor or whether that is literally just, it's a vibe, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
I work with actors and I work with people in the business world, and both of them, I always talk to them and talk about the way that headshots operate in a kind of, as part of a kind of branding operation.
Yeah.
Think about yourself as a business if you're an actor, or like you run a small business if you're business world, and you've got to think about these kind of headshots as part of that kind of package.
Absolutely.
And so what that means is that the feeling actually is one of the most important parts of the way that you should be, the focus that you should have. So the sharpness of the image, or the proximity to natural colors and so forth, it's partly there, but it's not necessarily the most important thing, because actually the feeling is really there. And I think that that's something about your work that I admire, is that you're not backing down on that. Your whole point is saying this is what you get, and I care about the kind of the feeling that you might be portraying to the world.
Yeah.
That might mean that actually for 30, 50, 70 even % of your potential client base, you're not the guy, because you're not, that's not the feeling that they want to be putting into their work.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think it's really important with photographers, right, to you know, hold on to that, right? You are marketing yourself as a business owner.
Yeah.
And so you also then have a kind of brand and a look. So it's important, right?
It's integrity as well. I mean, I think a lot of people want to have. I did sort of fold once. I think this was quite early on in my headshot career, I guess it was. And she contacted me. I think she was she moved back to Sweden. I can't remember where from, but she liked my stuff. She contacted me. I like your stuff. Then she sort of said, "Well, can we shoot in this style?" And I was like, "Okay." And it didn't work. It just did not work at all. So from that point on, it was a case of, listen, if you like what you see, this is what you get. You might get something a bit lighter, just, you know, but still that falls into my sort of criteria. So, okay, there's enough shadow on that side of the face to make it still relatable to what I do. But it was a case of, you know, like getting Rembrandt to paint pop art style. You know, it just wouldn't work at all.
Yeah, no, of course.
So I may lose out on some work, but I'd rather lose out on work than produce stuff that just doesn't represent me. I want them to find someone who represents them, and if that's someone else, then so be it. But I'm quite happy that I do have a bit of a loyal following of actors and finance people as well. So it's
interesting. Yeah, I mean, in a way, right? It's the reason why you can't shoot in another style just like that is because there's not one part of your ingredient mix that you can swap out and suddenly it becomes a different type of photography.
Yeah.
Because there's all of these different elements, and it might be a lens, it might be a camera, it might be a particular light or a particular modifier, or like I said, it might be the studio, it might be the atmosphere, it might be the approach, it might be the depth of field, it might be, you know, a certain way of directing people, it might be all these kinds of things combined. And actually just to go, okay, well, I'm going to shoot an entirely different style, actually means that you've got, okay, what is it particularly in my kind of toolbox of things that I can bring to this shoot that I can change, that I can swap out. I can bring in, rather than having just one light, I can bring in two, I can bring in three. Rather than using constant light, I'll use strobe. Rather than using studio light, I'll use outdoor light, natural light or environmental light. So all of those kinds of things are kind of part of that consideration process where thinking differently. But it's not really easy to just be like, right, that's the particular thing that you swap out and change.
I mean, I think it must be like a chef, you know, trying to take out using salt or adding another spice to make something else. You know, if you follow a bolognese recipe, you use the ingredients. If I do something that's completely different, I mean, I like shooting dark. That's evident by my Instagram account. But if I do choose to go with a light background, that will be on someone that I want to test it out. You know, it's like they get pictures, I get pictures, and I get to test out if I can do it or not, rather than testing it on someone on the day. And it was a case of they wanted like an infinity background. So it was like one of these cotton, it's like a bed sheet basically, and I had like an IKEA roll out dark out blind that I rolled on the ground. It was two different shades of white, but you know, post processing, I blended it in. So I was quite happy how it worked. It was shot in black and white. I wasn't too happy how the colors worked, but in black and white, it was just very, very contrasty. There was still like a lot of detail in the skin, which I wanted, but still had the skin quite a bit lighter. So that was like a sort of full body shots, some close up, sort of like chest up, head, sort of very tightly framed in. I liked it, but I think for me it was one too many added ingredients that I didn't like to do. It was fun. I like the photographs, but I think I know I don't have to think about when I come to set up my studio. I mean, I shoot from my living room at the moment. I just kick the coffee table out of the way, pull the lampshade down, backdrop, then it's like ready to use in like 10 minutes. So the light placement, I'm sort of restricted to where the light can go. But that's, I guess, part and parcel of how the images look. The light is like this because the sofa's in the way or something's in the way, the dog's on the ground or something like that.
Yeah.
So it is a case of, I mean, if it didn't work out, I'd find a way to make it work. Either use like a light on a boom arm, whatever it is. But I like the results. I think I used the biggest light modifier I've used was a 7-foot Westcott umbrella, white inside, no diffuser, but the light from that was just very magical. It was just very ethereal. Even the dark parts of the face was dark, but still you could see like individual hairs on the dark part of the face. It was a very soft wraparound on the face. It was very sort of front cover editorial type style light, and I like it, but it's a huge light source. It's massive. It's great because I can put it straight in behind me and stand in front of it and still manage to light them up, but it's a beast. It's a beast of a light modifier.
You'll have to send me a link to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want one.
Want it?
Sean, we're just about to come to the end. Is there anything that you want to talk about or anything that you want to mention before we wrap up?
I think the what I would like to say is to new photographers, and it's the same type of advice that I give to actors as well. I think the temptation to start off and feel overwhelmed by what other people are doing is a lot better. I mean, when I started off, I was looking back and now I was bad. It was bad. But I think is just not to lose hope or interest in photography or headshot photography or portraiture or wedding, whatever it is. Find that sort of equilibrium, what keeps you sort of balanced as a new photographer. Don't be afraid to ask other photographers for advice. I think if I was to ask you something, you'd be like, yeah, sure, this is how you do it, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I'm sort of very much the same as well with Mike asking me. I think photographers are very giving when it comes to advice. And I think new photographers can't lose hope in it. Like some actors say, listen, you've spent all this time doing 2 or 3 jobs, night jobs, to be able to go to acting school, then you're just going to give it up because you get neglected on your first audition. Keep going at it. You throw enough brown stuff at the wall, it's going to stick. So just keep at it. And it will pay off. When you start getting a bit of a following, you will get sort of self gratification. Like, okay, it's not all about likes, but seeing a picture getting a likes, like, okay, well, people like that style. I'm going to sort of investigate that more. Like with the white background, that did get quite a bit of attention, but that's purely because it was different from what I did. But I think it is, just don't be afraid to ask other photographers and try and sort of keep yourself grounded to one style, whether it be, still life photography, shooting balls of fruit, or if it's shooting actors or corporate headshots. Find what you like about it. Then you won't see it as work. And that's where I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I have a real good laugh with my clients. We come in, we have a coffee and just take it easy and just chill out. There's like 3 beagles knocking around. There's coffee. There's Spotify on. So, and it's it is my home. So it's a very homely environment. So I think if there's like a lot of image and emotion within the photograph, is people are they feel at home. They feel relaxed. They're not in I can't shoot. I don't know how you can shoot in a studio. I think a studio environment for me is just a very scary environment. I think I have a lot to fall back on with having the sofa there or the coffee machine or the dogs or whatever it is. So for me, this familiarity is probably one of those key ingredients to what I do. But yeah, just don't give up. I mean, keep on going at it. If you're like me, you're going to be very curious and want to know more about it. And if you do see a style of photographer that you like on Instagram, like with your work, or Dwayne's or Mike's or whoever it is, I'm going to ask them. I'm definitely going to ask them how they do stuff. And 10 times out of 10 they'll say, I've never had someone say, well, no, that's my secret ingredient. That's my KFC spice mix. I'm not going to tell you. So people are very willing to help, which is good.
Yeah, of course.
It's good. And then it just makes you feel a part of a family like Headshot Matters is. I thought, like a lot of groups or whatever it is, it's going to be very competitive, and there's some that are. But Headshot Matters is just, it's one big family, and it's growing, which is great to see. So
yeah, exactly. People should be joining it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I think we're coming to the end, Sean. So thank you very much for chatting.
Having me.
Where can people find you online?
My main account that I use on Instagram is Stockholm _Sean, SEAN, is Sean Connery. I think if you get to that, then you will see my link to my website. It does need to be updated, but obviously with the holiday periods, there's not much being new added onto it, but know that there's going to be stuff coming on now, so I'll be updating that soon. But on Instagram, I sort of post daily, at least daily. Sometimes if I get a lot of work in, then people are just going to be spammed. A lot of people call me because I spam a lot. But yeah, it's Stockholm _Sean on Instagram. So
fantastic, Sean. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Cheers.
Cheers now, bye.